Everyone, I'm Rob Atkinson, I'm president of ITIF, and I want to welcome you to an event this morning to talk about why the United States needs a national network of manufacturing innovation, and also what that network should look like and how it should operate. As most of you know, this was a proposal that the Obama administration made still this year. We're not in 2000, it made this year. And as part of that, I've already stood up a pilot program on additive manufacturing at Institute. And in our view, this is the most important thing we can do for manufacturing. And if we do it, would be the most important step Congress has taken since '89. Because you're old enough to remember, the '89 Omnibus Trade and Competitiveness Act had a number of important provisions for manufacturing, including renaming NIST and creating the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So we have a great panel this morning. I'm going to introduce folks. Now I'm just going to give a couple-minute overview. David Hart, who's the lead author of this report, along with my colleague Stephen Ezell, will talk a little bit about NNMI, and then we'll hear comments from three potential users of such a system. So we start with David. David is a professor at George Mason University. He's the director of the Center for Science and Technology and Technology Policy at the School of Public Policy. He has also served most recently as the Assistant Director for Innovation Policy with a focus on advanced manufacturing in the Office of Science and Technology Policy in the White House, and just left that post in August. David has written numerous scholarly articles and books, including a recent book, MIT Press book, Unlocking Energy Innovation, also The Emergence of Entrepreneurship Policy and Forced Consensus Science and Tech Policy and Economic Policy in the United States. Next is Celia Merzbacher, who is Vice President, Innovative Partnerships for the Semiconductor Research Corporation. For those of you who don't know, one of our most successful industry-university-government partnership, I believe, is the SRC. It is a very interesting model, which I think an NNMI program can learn from. Prior to joining SRC, Celia was an Assistant Director of Technology R&D in the White House Office of Science and Technology in the Bush administration, where she coordinated and advised on a range of issues, including nanotechnology, IP, and tech transfer. She also oversaw the National Nanotechnology Initiative. Prior to that, she was on the staff of the Naval Research Laboratory, and as a research scientist, she developed advanced optical materials in which she was awarded a number of patents. She also received her PhD in geochemistry and mineralogy from Penn State University. It goes way, way back. That is much better than my PhD. Dennis Dodson is chairman of Dodson Iron Castings. And you may ask, why is an iron casting company here? And to my interest and surprise, it turns out that the casting industry is actually the model of innovation. You think of casting as something that we created 150 years ago. It turns out that there's an enormous amount of innovation happening in that industry right now, and some of it led by Denny and his firm. He is a third-generation foundryman, which is created by his grandfather, Dodson Iron Castings, in Mankato, Minnesota. He is also a prime mover for Saugus 2, which is in itself kind of a model or a proposed model for a kind of NNMI for the casting industry. He's a founding board member of the Metal Casters of Minnesota, and he also is on the board of the American Foundry Society, and will be its president in 2013. I should also add that Denny's on the advisory board for the NIST MEP partnership. And finally, Steve Betza, who is a corporate engineering director of Lockheed Martin Corporation, where he leads nationwide process and technology initiatives in electrical engineering. He has a 30-year career with IBM, L'Oreal, and Lockheed, and he's had a number of increasingly responsible positions in IT, engineering, and program management. At Lockheed, he served as engineering director for a 400-person electronics product organization and program director for a business area with $120 million in sales, and also CIO for a large group of Lockheed Martin companies. Steve also has a degree, a bachelor's in science, electrical engineering from Penn State, and was also an award of the Penn State Outstanding Engineering Alumnus in 2002. He's also a member of the American Society for Quality and has advised DoD and the National Security Agency on issues related to microelectronics and the U.S. industrial base. So, a great panel, and let me just jump right in and talk about why we need to do this. So I always remember when we first started working on it in a serious way on manufacturing, and we had our first event, which was why we need a national manufacturing policy. A colleague walked up to me before the event and he said, "Why are you guys doing something on manufacturing? I thought you guys were all about innovation." And which struck me as an odd comment, but the more I've talked with people, the more I realize that it's a very interesting and important comment, because it reflects a pretty widely held view in Washington that manufacturing's that kind of thing. It's this older kind of thing that we don't really need to do because we're superior now. We're knowledge-based, and this is not really what we do. But really what the right view of manufacturing is, it's making incredibly advanced, complex products with knowledge and technology deeply embedded in them, whether it's advanced aeronautics or biotechnology or materials. And these are the kinds of areas where the U.S. Really should lead, and unfortunately we don't as much as we should. And this has been, I think, one of the major problems for the U.S. economy. And that gets to a key point, which is, why is manufacturing important? Well, one reason it's important is because it really drives our ability to have a vibrant traded sector. So if you think about an economy divided into traded sector and non-traded sector, so barbershops, grocery stores, electric utilities, non-traded, manufacturing, software, those kinds of movies, those are largely traded in global markets. If you cannot be competitive in those traded sectors, your overall economy is going to languish, you're not going to create as many jobs, incomes are not going to go up, and you're going to have economic malaise. Sound familiar? That's exactly why I would argue, and Stephen Ezell and I argue in our new book. So if you think about that chart, we added about 20% of jobs in the 80s and in the 90s, and in the 2000s, 0. Created no net new jobs. Now, I would argue that that is directly causally related to that orange bar. We lost a third of our manufacturing employment in the 2000s, and because of that, it was a deep and constant drag on job growth and overall economic expansion. And for those of you who hear and read these articles about the great manufacturing renaissance, if anybody's read the Atlantic Monthly story, talking about a nice story by Charles Lane about how GE is bringing back work to their Louisville appliance factory, which is a wonderful story. There's only one problem with that story. If you look at the overall trade balance in household appliances in the last 2.5 years, the trade deficit is up 37%. So yes, we have one company bringing back some appliance manufacturing to the U.S., but one company doesn't make a rebound. And so I would argue that we have a severe challenge in the U.S. on manufacturing that we have to respond to. All but one state has lost manufacturing. That state was Alaska. They went from, I think, 3 manufacturing jobs to 6. Only kidding. But you can see the breadth of the loss. It used to be that the losses were in the industrial Midwest, but now the South, which is used to be the manufacturing belt of the U.S., has seen as big, if not bigger, declines, as well as states in the West. So let me go back to one last piece of this. The other reason I think that people miss a lot, and Steve can talk about this much more eloquently than I can, if we do not have a robust manufacturing base, we will not have a robust defense industrial base. And there was a recent GAO report that talked about fraudulent parts coming into the military, and they're quite significant. So if we cannot produce the kinds of things our military needs, we're going to be at a defense disadvantage, not just in terms of products that may not work when they get to the battlefield, but our ability to continue to innovate as well as scale up if we really need to do that in a wartime condition. So why do we need a policy? Can't we just rely on the market? Isn't the market going to take care of this? The market has taken care of this, in part in response to foreign policies from other countries who all have manufacturing policies.